We hope you'll continue to participate in whichever manner you feel most comfortable. Thank you. Please rise and please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Thank you everyone again who is joining us tonight. Before we move through the agenda, I will explain our updated general comment registration process and remind everyone about the rules of decorum for council meetings. Individuals may register to comment on scheduled public hearing items until the hearing is closed. For the general comment section, we will accept signups until 7:30 p.m. The general comment section has been changed to 1 hour. If you are here to give general comments, not everyone who signed up may be able to speak. To help make the most of the 1 hour comment time, we have meeting rules designed so that we can conduct city business, ensure that the meeting is safe, orderly, and free from intimidation. The following rules help us maintain that safe and welcoming environment. These are the rules of decorum. In this meeting and going forward, there will be no more warnings. If anyone is not following our rules, then we will immediately direct you to leave the room. To keep our reactions from affecting your ability to share your opinion freely, council members refrain from reacting or responding to allow everyone to share their opinions freely. When making your comments, please address the body and not any individual elected official. Council staff are available during or after the meeting to help with any questions or information sharing. Avoid the use of threatening and discriminatory language. Do not insult others based on religion, ethnicity, race, color, gender, sexual orientation, physical ability. Whether you agree or disagree with someone's comment, clapping, cheering, shouting, booing, snapping, gesturing, obstructing, or discouraging others from commenting is not allowed. The full meeting rules are listed at the door, and our staff will post the link in Zoom. This brings us to the council public hearing section of our agenda, which are specific proposals before the council that require a public hearing, and your comments need to pertain to the hearing topic. If your comments go off topic, we will ask you to stop. This will serve as your only warning. If you would like to comment on these public hearing items today, we are accepting comments in person and online on Zoom. You can sign up to comment until the hearing is closed. If you need to speak with our staff, please raise your hand in the room or in Zoom, and a staff person will assist you. For those of you in Zoom, our staff person, Achintia Mahajan, can assist you with registration issues or technical questions. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling those who wish to comment based on the order we receive the names. If you are on Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. Each person will have 2 minutes, and we will call on each person who has signed up to speak. Just as a reminder, our goal is to create and keep a safe space for everyone to share and participate in the meeting. So please follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. Disruptions or threats to anyone's safety are not allowed. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or a disruption occurs, we will pause your comments to remind you about the rules before you continue. Our first public hearing is for grant application items B1 through B3, which will be heard as one public hearing. Before we begin taking comments, I will first turn the time over to Sylvia Richards, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The city applies for and receives grants which help to support and fund some city programs. Each grant application is reviewed and then receives a public hearing, which gives the public and the council an opportunity to comment on. Tonight, there are 3 grants. First is the fiscal year 2023 Paul Coverdale Forensic Science Improvement Grant, which, if approved, will fund the Police Department Crime Lab 2024 annual accreditation fee. Second is the Utah Department of Transportation Improvements to State Street Grant, which, if approved, will fund improvements to State Street, including the addition of a mid-block hawk signal at 640 South and State Street. Third is the Assistance to Firefighters Submission Grant, which, if approved, will fund the purchase of 12 automated external defibrillators and 5 CPR devices to replace current devices which are past their expected service life. Again, these are items for which the city has applied. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sylvia. This is a hearing specific to these grant items. Any comments that are not on this topic will be stopped. This serves as your warning, and we will not have any more warnings. Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's one person registered to speak to these items. That will be James Allen, who is here in person.
You may begin.
Hey, my name is James Allen. I live in District 5. I came here to voice my support in adding additional mid-block crossings and crossings of any kind across State Street. And I'd like to kind of...
Do you mind getting the mic closer? Excuse me.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, I'd like to show my support for any type of pedestrian crossings across state. And I'd also like to kind of bring up some interesting points for you guys to consider with this grant. In the Life on State plan, on page 35, there's 3 areas that have, quote unquote, few crossings across state. Those are around 1100 South, 1400 South, and 1800 South. And then I would like to voice that you would maybe want to think about adding additional crossings in these areas since they are few crossings as opposed to the downtown area in District 4. So if some extra crossings in District 5, that would be pretty great in the ballpark area. Specifically, there's one crossing around 1800 South where the nearest street crossings are 1,700 feet apart. This is in contrast to the new track station that was put in downtown, the 500 and 600 South track station, or the 600 South track station, which is only 1,200 feet apart, kind of showing that the city sees that, this is a, distance that should be accommodated for and is not necessarily considered walkable by the large infrastructure of the 600 South station. And this particular intersection on 1800 South does have a corner store as well as access to the 200 bus, which is the third most trafficked bus line in Salt Lake City with UTA. And this corner store, if there's a lot better access for it, there's essentially 2 large apartment complexes within 400 meters of this crossing that would then provide access to a really nice walkable grocery store in the area, an area that's quite industrialized. Yeah, and then I'd also like to voice that some kind of pedestrian island.
Fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Thank you, everyone who made comment to this issue. I'll now be looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and refer items B1, B2, and B3 to a future consent agenda for action.
So moved. Do we have a second? Okay, motion made by Councilmember Pui, second by Councilmember Wharton. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay. Our final public hearing item B4 is for an ordinance temporary closure of 7200 West between Interstate 80 and California Avenue. Before we begin taking comments, I will first turn the time over to Ben Ludke, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction. We'll give a temporary pause.
Testing. We're back.
Perfect. Go ahead, Ben.
The ordinance before the council would temporarily close approximately 1.5 miles of 7200 West between California Avenue and Interstate 80. The temporary closure could last up to 2 years or up to 30 days after the safety issues are mitigated, whichever comes first. The 3 adjacent property owners submitted letters of support for the temporary closure, and they would all retain access to their property during the closure. State law requires a public hearing to be held before voting on the temporary road closure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. This is a hearing specific to the temporary closure. Any comments that are not on this topic will be stopped. This serves as your warning, and we will not have any more warnings. Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is one person registered to speak to this item. That is Jen Robinson, who is here in person.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Council members. My name is Jen Robison, and I work for Rio Tinto doing government affairs. We appreciate the city's work on this ordinance, and I'm here to affirm our support and reiterate the same things that you've seen in the letter that you have from our team in front of you. The same considerations that have led the city to consider this closure are also affecting our property. The illegal dumping, the illicit activity, and the encampments have caused environmental and safety concerns and have been very expensive to mitigate. We appreciate your commitment to gate access for Rio Tinto, and we'll continue to stay in contact with the city's team. So thank you for your consideration on this.
Thank you for your comment. I'll now look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and adopt an ordinance temporarily closing a portion of 7200 West between Interstate 80 and California Avenue.
Okay, so moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Pui, second by Councilmember Mono. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. This brings us to potential action section, item C1, for an ordinance rezone at 2260, 2270, and 2290 East, 1300 South. Looks like there's no public comment on this. I'll now look for a motion.
I move that the council adopt the ordinance.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Councilmember Dugan?
oh, I was going to make an opposing motion, so.
Okay. We do have a motion on the table, no second.
I will second it.
Okay, second by Councilmember Pui. So Councilmember Dugan, you are out of term, so we have to vote on the first motion that was laid out. It is now open for discussion. Do we have any discussion? Councilmember Dugan, this would be an appropriate time to make a comment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just, I'm opposed to this rezone of this property. It is 3 homes along 1300 South that are probably naturally occurring at this time. There is not any affordable homeowner affordability to the rezone request, and the developer is not open to a development agreement that would include affordable housing. And he's going to match this with the other zone he has right next door and make that affordable housing. So, or make that a market rate housing. So I'm just opposed because the rezoning 3 naturally occurring houses without any affordability with them.
Thank you, Councilmember Dugan. Is there any other discussion on the topic? Councilmember Pui, do you have a comment?
I understand the Councilmember Dugan has been is more informed on this issue, and I understand the concerns about this, and I will support his alternative motion to reject.
Okay, excellent. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote on the current motion at hand. All those in favor of adopting this ordinance?
So, yeah, thank you,
Go
Madam Chair.
ahead.
Just wondering, is the alternative motion adopted by the person who made the original motion, or are we voting?
No, so we are voting on the original motion by Councilmember Pui to adopt the ordinance zoning amendments. That's the motion at hand that we have to vote on. We'd have to,
Correct, but the motion wasn't done by me, was done by
excuse me,
Councilmember.
sorry, I confused that. But correct, we have to vote on the motion at hand.
May I-
We have to vote it down and then introduce a new motion.
Madam Chair, may I ask for a point of clarification? Could the alternative motion request an amendment or a change on the motion so we don't have to vote on the first one? Could we potentially do that?
There was a second.
You can help. I think because there was a second
Substitute.
because there was a second on the first motion, you have to vote on the first motion unless the person making the first motion accepted an amendment. But I think because the second motion was in opposition to the first motion, that doesn't really apply.
Right.
So let's close discussion and go to a vote. Okay. Thank you. All those in favor of adopting the motion of the zoning map amendment at 2260, 2270, 2290 East, 1300 South, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay.
Nay. Nay.
Okay, motion fails. This would now be an appropriate time to introduce a new motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council reject the ordinance.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, well, if there's any discussion first. Seeing none, we'll now move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes that we move that the council reject the ordinance. Okay. Perfect. We are now moving on to the next session, and I'd like to thank Rachel Otto, the mayor's chief of staff, for joining us. Thank you for being here on behalf of Mayor Mendenhall, and thank you to Lindsay Nicola for being here too. I'd like to start with a moment about the illegal demolition of the historic Ward House on 300 West over the weekend. Earlier in our work session, council had a chance to talk about enforcement against unauthorized work, especially to safeguard historic sites. Anyone who is here for that topic, you may go back and listen to our briefing from this afternoon. But I also wanted to take a moment and thank the administration for your staff's quick work over the weekend. Your promptness saved this beautiful historic building. Could you take a moment to outline what happened, what the city's response was, and anything you can share about what will come next?
Sure. Thank you very much, Councilmember. As you know, the Fifth Ward House, which is located at 740 South 300 West, was designated as a local landmark in 1979 and is subject to the requirements outlined in the Historic Preservation Overlay Zone. Under those requirements, it is unlawful to make any exterior alterations to a local landmark without obtaining approval. On Sunday, the city received notice that there was demolition work begun on this property with no city permits in place. Our staff immediately went to the site and issued a stop work order that day. Yesterday, civil enforcement issued a zoning notice and order for 2 violations: work without a certificate of appropriateness and work without permits. Each carry a $100 per day fine, resulting in a $200 per day fine after a reasonable time to cure the violation, which in this instance would be restoration of the portion of the building that has been demolished. We are working with the attorney's office on what reasonable can be defined as in this instance. Finally, as we discussed earlier during the work session, the administration just last week had transmitted to the council a proposed text amendment that would apply to these types of situations in the future. It would increase the fees for starting work on a historic structure without permits, eliminate the ability for a property owner to apply for economic hardship when demolition begins without a permit, and prohibit the redevelopment of the property for 25 years if the building is not restored. So those are some of the actions that we would be able to, or some of the tools that the city would have at its disposal in the future for these sorts of situations. But thank you very much, Council, for your support. This has been a truly devastating situation, I think, for many. And we are taking this incredibly seriously. So thanks for your interest and support.
Yeah, thank you. And to take a stolen quote, it is insidious, truly. Thank you for your swift actions and exercising our full authority as an administration. We are now at the general comment portion of our agenda and welcome your comments on any item of interest. If you are joining us after 7:30 and missed the opportunity to sign up, staff has written comment cards you can use. Please raise your hand and a council staff member will assist you. We recently had several members of the public leave our meetings without commenting or participating due to feelings of intimidation. To make everyone feel comfortable participating, we'd like to emphasize our rules that any behavior that is threatening, disruptive, or creating an unsafe environment will not be tolerated, and we will ask staff to assist you out of the meeting. If this standard is not observed, we will call a recess. As a reminder for those who are joining in on Zoom, Achintia Mahajan from our staff will moderate our Zoom and message you with any questions about your registration. If you need assistance, raise your hand and select Achantia from the list of participants. Please limit messages to technical issues and minimal information updates. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling those who wish to comment in the order of registration or collected comment cards. If you are on Zoom, please unmute your mic when Taylor calls your name. If you are in person, please feel free to come up and stand in line when you hear your name called. Please avoid interruptions so that we can have as many people speak during the hour. The host will announce time at the 2-minute mark, and your microphone will be muted. If you are unable to finish your comment, please share the rest via email, mail, or call our office. Contact information is listed at slccouncil.com. Please remember to follow our public comment rules when making your remarks. If anyone uses discriminatory language, curses, or disrupts the meeting, we will pause your comments to remind you about the rules before you continue. When making your comments, please direct them to the body, not any single elected official. Our goal is to maintain a safe and orderly meeting and to hear from as many of you as possible over the next hour. Taylor, you can begin with our first general comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are about 6 people registered to speak. The first will be Frederick Jenny, followed by Bernie Hart, and then Kevin Donahue. Frederick is here in person.
Good evening. My name is Frederick Jenny. I currently live in District 4 and have been a resident of Salt Lake City for 8 years. I noticed the city will be talking about the transportation plan Connect Salt Lake City in 2 weeks. Seeing as I will not be in town that day, I wanted to speak and make sure my voice was heard. I want to make sure this plan includes the Rio Grande plan. I understand the city is working to complete the Reconnect Communities grant, but I believe that that we need to move forward with the train box. This will bridge our communities, making our city whole once again, removing that deep gaping wound. And it will bring life back to our long abandoned historic train station and the area around it. Not only will it do that, with traffic expected to double, rail traffic expected to double in the next 10 years, the chance we have to do this is now. The state has already shown that they have the budget to do these large infrastructure projects with the stadiums that they funded. So I ask, with the Olympics coming in 2034, why we can't make this our grand infrastructure project, like the tracks in the Gateway were for 2002. How ironic would it be that 2002 took away the tracks from the Rio Grande Depot and 2034 can bring them back? Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment.
Next will be Bernie Hart, followed by Kevin Donahue, and then Josh D. Bernie is here in person.
Been a while since I've been here. I want to start by thanking a few people out in the community that have been encouraging me to behave. And Nyla, Catherine Ann, my wife Marita, and I got a pretty cool council person now, I think. So a lot of people are watching us and telling me I got to change how I do things. So I've been thinking about it, and I was challenged last week by a homeless service provider when I started asking some of the typical tough questions I ask about performance and how things are going, to provide some data on our program. And I'm always challenged about our program. We receive no financing from anybody. It's all self-funded. We don't need performance audits to do what we do, but we do it. But it's time I started talking, and they're encouraging me to talk about the positive aspects of our program. In the course of a year, we see, probably 9,000 people, seeing between 30 and 40 people a day. And when it's busy, it fluctuates, but 9,000 people. And most of the people that come into our program are campers or were campers or have been the hardest service portion of the population in Salt Lake City. I don't need a lot of data to prove that because I think it's just common knowledge. Somebody made me aware recently about when people are with us, they're not needing medical expenses. The police aren't making calls on them. The ambulances aren't giving them, Narcan.
Thank you.
Next will be Kevin Donahue, followed by Josh D, and then Satina Piotto. Kevin is here in person.
Thank you. And before you begin, to the commenter before, Bernie, you are invited to submit the rest of your comment via email, mail, or you can call us. Thank you. Okay, when you're ready, sir.
Yes, good evening. I'm Dr. Kevin Donahue, and thank you for this hearing. I appreciate it. I'm here to discuss a plan that was put forth by my neighbors to alter the whole idea of my 95-year-old community, which is building. I went through the entire appeals a process including going to the Planning Commission meeting, going to an appeals hearing for that, the district court, the appeals court, and recently the Supreme Court. This is all based on a fraudulent application. One of my neighbors sent in a complaint that a building they labeled as a garage on their plan was actually a dwelling. I live right next door to him. I've been there for 34 years. I know it's a dwelling, and I represented that through all of these hearings. No one wanted to hear that. John Anderson, Nick Norris, and Antonio Padilla are all aware that that was under investigation at the time, and then suddenly it was just dropped for no reason. Yet the application was allowed to proceed. Filling out a false application violates City Code 10-9A-801, as well as Utah Code 76-8-504-1B4. Now, the city planner presented this to the Planning Commission when he was sick and actually died shortly after that. The other thing is that I just cannot believe that the resources were put forth on this to allow this fraudulent application to proceed. I would like huge resources, taxpayer money. I would like to request a moratorium be placed on any building going forward right now, a review and investigation of this waste of taxpayers' resources, and also...
Time.
Okay. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, if you have any other comments, feel free to submit online. Thank you so much. Okay, next.
Next is Josh D, followed by Satina Piotau, and then Jim Webster. Josh is here in person.
Hi, my name is Josh. I know that you guys know what I'm here to talk about, as you can tell from my apparel, from the keffiyeh. And I know that you don't care much about accounts of what is happening overseas in Gaza, as made evident by your reaction to multiple previous city council meetings. And additionally, I would like to remind you guys of your own rules to not react to the things that we're saying. And I don't appreciate that some of you are already looking away from me while I watched you make eye contact and engage with the previous people, show that you're actively listening. So I'd appreciate that same respect towards me. And I'm here to give respect to you guys as well. So anyways, what I came here to talk about, I was educated locally in city planning and architecture. And one of the big messages when we're talking about those things, excuse me, could you please maintain eye contact?
Okay, we can't, you have to address the body, so please continue.
Okay. Anyways, something that is important in city planning is sustainability and planning for long-term investments. And we can see the state of the world right now, and there's a lot of war, and a lot of it is directly the result of US and our interactions with foreign policies. I personally believe it would be extremely smart to divest from war in general. And Salt Lake, here we invite groups such as Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, into our city to do their business of war and of killing people overseas. And I understand defense and all that stuff, but it's not sustainable long term. As the world is moving away from violence and from wars, the rest of the world is becoming more and more sick with this. And it would be more wise for us.
Thank you. Thank you. We invite you to submit the rest of your comments online, or you can call us. Thank you so much. Next.
Next is Satina Piotau, followed by Jim Webster. Satina's here in person.
Good evening. My name is Satina Piotau, and I'm here with my grandfather, Silva Fanua, who has served his community as deputy sheriff for 30 years and has done Utah food bank service or volunteer work from 2010 until present. We're here tonight looking for any grants or fund that would help with continuing his passion in doing service for the community, to start a project with a refugee or a rescue or shelter project built on his property. We're from block number 20, downtown Salt Lake, 465 East and 700 South. And we're just looking for funds or any grant that would help him continue doing service for the community and giving hands to those that are in need. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next comment.
Next will be Jim Webster, who's here in person.
I know you hear from me a lot. I don't know that you know this, but I have 2 graduate degrees from Harvard and MIT in architectural history. And I think it's a tragedy, not just that that building is being demolished, but I think it's because my feeling personally is that we're far too lax, that we have given the green light to too many developers, and they feel like they'd much rather ask forgiveness and pay the price if necessary. In this very room a number of years ago, the city council voted to tear down this building. I don't know how many of you were even alive when that happened, but that did. That was a city council. The city council also voted for my CIP grant to restore the WPA walls in Miller Park, and then has reversed that and is spending the money on other projects related to that park, I assume. They also the city also violated the federal migratory bird law and has done so for every year since the oil spill. Currently, the city is denigrating Sunnyside Park by allowing the university to build a baseball stadium. The city says that, they don't have to build a big retaining wall or a big wall in left field. Well, in fact, that wall is now going to be 10 to 12 feet higher because you're encountering much more grade change. So I just think we could be a little bit more honest. Another thing about that proposal is that it'll take away the opportunity to expand Salt Lake City Recreation Center because the university wants to build a parking lot in the land that we were hoping to expand into. I worked on that project.
Thank you. If you'd like to submit the rest of your comment, you can do that online or you can give us a call. Are there any more comments, Taylor?
That was the final registered commenter.
Okay. Thank you everyone for your comments. Our next item is new business item E1 for a resolution North Point area annexation initiation. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council adopt a resolution expressing intent to pursue annexation of the area shown on the map on Exhibit A into Salt Lake City.
Okay, motion's been made. Do I have a second? Okay. Councilmember Pui made the motion, second by Councilmember Petro. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. We are now at unfinished business in item F1 for an ordinance economic development loan fund for Parea LLC. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council adopt the ordinance approving $350,000 loan for Parea LLC from the Economic Development Loan Fund.
Okay, motion made. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Dugan. So motion made by Councilmember Pui, second by Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. This brings us to the consent portion of our agenda. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the consent agenda with the exception of item G3, which I'm recused from, so you'll need to consider separately.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made. Motion made by Councilmember Mono, second by Councilmember Pui. All those in favor, please say aye.
Say
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. This concludes our Salt Lake City Council.
Hang on.
Oh,
He has
excuse
to
me.
recuse and then we.
And then just vote on
I got ahead of the horse. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item G3.
Second.
Second.
Motion been made by Councilmember Petros, second by Councilmember Pui. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes, and we conclude with the consent portion of our agenda. This concludes our Salt Lake City Council meeting. The council's formal meeting now stands adjourned.